She said at the party, I wish I'd come single. I'd be having more fun, loud enough for everyone to hear. I said, let's fix that. Then I left. Her 47 missed calls that night when her ride home left without her. It was my girlfriend, Vanessa, 26, 3 drinks deep and holding court with her friends. And there I was, standing 15 feet away, trying to engage in a conversation about basketball with Austin's roommate. I had driven us here, my car, my gas, like I always did since her lease had ended. And she had refused to get her own car. Standard arrangement, except tonight it made me feel stupid, exposed, and frankly, exhausted. We'd been together for a year and a half, and the signs had been there for a while. Little digs, tiny remarks about me being too boring, too cautious, too normal. She was from one of those social media heavy circles, a marketing team at a startup, always posting her life as though it were a highlight reel. I worked in software development, coding away, quiet, measured, the opposite of their over-caffeinated, insta-perfect world. I tried, I really did, to fit in, nursing a beer, asking questions, laughing when appropriate. But tonight, the pretense felt heavier than ever. And then it happened. Vanessa's voice, loud, sharp, unmistakable, slicing through the crowd. Ugh. I wish I came single tonight. I'd be having so much more fun. It wasn't subtle. The friends around her laughed, and a few glanced over at me. My throat tightened. I walked toward her, trying to stay calm, to keep some dignity intact. Hey, can we talk for a second? I said. She rolled her eyes, dismissing me with that practiced, drunk, elegant look she always wore. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. I'm just joking. Lighten up, Connor. Go grab another drink or something, she said. Isabel, her friend, snickered. The laughter rang in my ears. It wasn't funny. Not to me, not tonight. Something snapped in me. Cold clarity, the kind that hits when you finally see the truth. I was done. You wanted to be single tonight? I said, pulling my keys from my pocket. Let's fix that. Vanessa blinked. Wait, what? I shrugged. Find your own ride home. Enjoy the party. She opened her mouth to protest, but I didn't wait for her. I turned and walked out. The cool night air hit me as I slid into my car, heart pounding with a mixture of anger and relief. Her phone blew up with missed calls and texts, dozens, maybe 50, 57 by the time I glanced at my screen. She begged, pleaded, threatened, half in panic, half in disbelief. Connor, seriously, come back. Everyone's asking where you went. I'm embarrassed. Please, I need you. The messages kept coming through the drive back to my apartment, buzzing ceaselessly in the cup holder. I ignored them. Each notification was a reminder that I had finally drawn a line. I parked, stepped inside, and for the first time in months, I breathed. The next morning, I woke up to a calm apartment that was finally mine again. But of course, Vanessa wasn't done. Around noon, there was a furious pounding on my door. Connor, we need to talk. Her voice, rough from last night, carried all the entitlement and drama I'd been bottling up. I peeked through the peephole. Vanessa, her hair messy, makeup smudged, clutching a small bag of belongings, eyes wide with disbelief. Can I come in? She asked, voice fragile and accusatory all at once. I shook my head. Not really in the mood for visitors, I muttered. She stepped back, flushed, as if the words had physically struck her. Are you serious? You abandoned me at a party, she exclaimed. I left the party. Big difference. You wanted to be single tonight, remember? Seemed like you didn't want me there anyway. Her argument fell flat, even to her own ears. Tears formed on cue, that predictable waterworks she relied on when things didn't go her way. Connor, please, I love you. I was drunk, I didn't mean it. I watched her, impassive. You know what? You're right. You didn't mean it. Neither did I. I'm done. She froze. Done with me. Her voice wavered. Done being your chauffeur. Done being the boring boyfriend you complain about. Done being the person who bends over backward for someone who disrespects me publicly. That comment wasn't the problem, it was the final straw. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. But where am I supposed to go? She demanded. I gestured toward the door. Anywhere but here. Austin's couch, your sister, someone who actually respects you. Not my problem, and with that, She gathered the few possessions she had left, slammed the door behind her, and left the apartment to me with a strange sense of liberation I hadn't anticipated. By Sunday afternoon, Vanessa's fury had metastasized. I was sitting on my couch, scrolling aimlessly, when my phone buzzed a text from Isabel, her friend. "Connor, Vanessa cried all night because of you. Are you really going to leave her stranded?" I stared at the screen. I wasn't ignoring reality. I was ignoring the expectation that I should absorb the consequences of someone else's choices. Vanessa had made her bed, or rather, her party, and now she had to lie in it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard before I typed a single line. She wanted to be single. Figure it out. Minutes later, more texts arrived, each more desperate than the last. Vanessa had finally found a ride, one of Austin's neighbors, a stranger who had taken pity on her after repeated Uber cancellations. She had paid $60 in gas. I felt a flicker of guilt, a tiny pang for her discomfort, but it was fleeting. This wasn't cruelty. It was accountability. She had humiliated me in front of 50 people, and now she was tasting the reality of her decisions. That afternoon, she showed up at my apartment, knocked hard, desperate. "Connor, please, can we talk?" I didn't open the door. Through the camera, I watched her flounder, hair mussed, dress from the night before, clinging awkwardly to her frame. "Are you serious?" she shouted. "You abandoned me." I shook my head, muttering to myself, "No, I didn't abandon you, you abandoned respect." Inside, I replayed her words from the party, her smirk as she announced to everyone that she'd be having more fun if she were single, the laughter of her friends, the gentle nudges, the eyes briefly meeting mine. Every detail burned into memory. I wasn't wrong to walk away. I just needed her to understand the gravity of her entitlement. "Connor, I was joking. I didn't mean it," she pleaded, voice cracking. I leaned against the door, calm but resolute. "You didn't mean it." "Neither did I. I'm done. I'm done bending over backward for someone who doesn't respect me. Done being the driver, the ATM, the punchline. Your joke is the last straw." She faltered, trying to negotiate. "But what about my stuff? My clothes, my laptop charger, my hair straightener? Where am I supposed to go?" I gestured at the door again. "Anywhere but here. Austin's couch, your sister, your parents, somewhere you're not expecting me to pick up the pieces. This is your responsibility now." Her eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed with indignation. "Connor, you're heartless," she hissed. I shrugged. "I'm done being used." By midweek, the fallout intensified. First came the texts to friends. Vanessa reached out to my social circle, trying to spin a narrative in which I was the villain, leaving her homeless and vulnerable. Screenshots of messages came in from Trevor and Nathan. "Hey, just so you know, she's lying. You weren't in the wrong," they said. Relief and validation washed over me. People she hadn't known intimately saw the truth, the story she tried to frame as victimhood was cracking. Her exaggerations, the gaslighting, the public performance of distress, it all began unraveling in real time. Then came the financial accusations, Venmo requests, increasingly audacious, for $150 for rent and groceries, $280 for gas, $125 for emotional damages. All denied. Every claim fell flat. She had contributed nothing toward the apartment bills. She had relied on my car, my food, my space for 18 months while criticizing me for being boring or not spontaneous enough. Every demand was a mirror reflecting her entitlement back at her. Screenshots of her requests, posted privately to close friends, elicited support and disbelief. "The audacity," I wrote. And truly, it was astounding how quickly someone could conflate expectation with right, privilege with need. By Thursday, the situation escalated. Vanessa sent me a letter, certified mail, formal looking, demanding compensation, the return of unspecified property, and a cessation of communication. My heart sank for a moment. Then I realized it was one of those pay to intimidate legal services. Googled the firm. Pay $100, scare someone, no real case. I laughed quietly to myself. I called my college roommate, Dennis, a family law attorney. He confirmed, ignore it. There was no leverage here, no legal teeth, just a desperate, performative attempt to scare me. The next day, Vanessa's mother called. Through the intercom at my door, she demanded a meeting to discuss her daughter's crisis. I listened. Calm, arms crossed. She made bad choices, I said. That's on her. Not my problem. You will not speak about my property or my actions that way. Leave. 10 minutes of shouting later, the call ended. Vanessa, her sister, her mother, they all left without resolution. And strangely, I felt a sense of liberation. It didn't stop there. Social media blew up. Vanessa posted her side, the toxic boyfriend who left her stranded, the emotionally abusive man refusing to take responsibility. Hundreds of comments poured in. Initially, some friends rallied behind her, but slowly, inconsistencies emerged. Party attendees began commenting. People who had been there knew the truth. The story she tried to spin as victimhood began to crumble. The friend group fractured under the weight of entitlement versus reality. Half-sided with her initially, but as details came to light, her free rides, her free living, her insistence on being supported financially while criticizing me, they wavered. Some blocked her outright. Others privately admitted the truth. Connor was right all along. I watched it unfold, detached but observant. My apartment regained its quiet. My life, once overshadowed by the stress of appeasing someone incapable of gratitude, started to feel mine again. Weekdays no longer blurred into driving Vanessa around, paying her bills, or enduring passive-aggressive jabs. I returned to small pleasures, morning runs, quiet coffee shops, time for hobbies that didn't involve someone else's entertainment. Even dating again felt revolutionary, a simple, pleasant interaction where I wasn't a chauffeur, a financial buffer, or a punchline. The contrast was stark, almost liberating. Even on social media, her attempts to portray herself as wronged were met with skepticism. Screenshots of her drunken behavior at the party, her demands, her free-living expectations all circulated quietly among mutual friends. Every post she made about finding herself or recovering from abuse was read through a lens of prior knowledge. The narrative she hoped to control slipped through her fingers. I never had to lift a finger. The consequences she had sown were now taking care of themselves. Weeks passed. Life regained its rhythm. Vanessa had disappeared from my daily orbit, but the ripples of that night's drama persisted. Her friends had slowly distanced themselves. Isabel stopped replying to messages. Austin set firm boundaries after she had caused a scene at his apartment. And even her sister, Peyton, who initially tried to mediate, eventually realized Vanessa had created her own chaos. Word on the street, or rather, in our social circles, was that Vanessa had moved back to her parents' house an hour away. She was supposedly figuring things out, which, from the details I gathered through mutual friends, meant she was struggling to maintain the independence she had once taken for granted. She had lost her job at the marketing firm, her attendance marred by unexcused absences after the party, hungover mornings, and frequent excuses. The narrative she had spun online about being abandoned and financially abused had been exposed, at least among the people who knew the truth. Austin told me she had been kicked out after expecting him to feed her, drive her around, and essentially bankroll her lifestyle. Her friend group disintegrated. The people who had laughed with her at the party now silently judged her for entitlement and dishonesty. It was a slow unraveling, public and private, one consequence at a time. Meanwhile, my life had begun to bloom. My apartment felt like mine again. The quiet of mornings without hurried texts, please, or frantic calls was intoxicating. I could sit, drink coffee, and read without checking the time for the next grocery trip, the next ride request, the next complaint. I reconnected with old friends, hung out at local bars, went to parks, and even started running again. The small routines that I had abandoned to accommodate Vanessa's whims returned. There was a freedom in being alone that I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Then came the occasional attempt from Vanessa to reach out, new numbers, random texts, sporadic Venmo requests that I ignored without a second thought. Every attempt was met with the same response: I didn't engage. I wasn't cruel. I was decisive. I had learned that silence, when paired with consistency, was more powerful than explanation or argument. She had tried to make me a villain in her story, but the story she spun collapsed under its own inconsistencies. Those who mattered, friends who had witnessed the party, people who knew the truth, understood. One evening, I received a message from Nathan, a friend who had been present at the party. Vanessa asked for your new address. Didn't give it to her? I replied simply, nope, she'll figure it out. And that was the end of it. The final threads of her attempt to manipulate or insert herself back into my life unraveled silently, leaving me unbothered. Life without her was quieter, calmer, and unexpectedly joyful. I went out for coffee with someone I had matched with online, a simple, pleasant conversation about books and travel. She paid for her own coffee. I didn't have to finance her fun or navigate passive-aggressive digs. For the first time, the word relationship felt like a possibility, not a chore. I realized how much mental energy I had been pouring into someone who never appreciated me, someone who viewed me as a utility rather than a partner. Reflecting back, the party comment, the one loud, careless remark, wasn't the start of the problem, but the catalyst. 18 months of small digs, expectations, and entitlement had led to this tipping point. Walking out that night was not cruelty. It was liberation. The moment I took my keys and left, I reclaimed not just my night, but my life. The chaos that followed was Vanessa facing the reality of her choices. Burned bridges, lost job, fractured friendships, and public exposure of her entitlement. I never posted a single vindictive word online, never exaggerated my story. I let reality, fact, and human observation do the work. Silent, measured, resolute, watching her narrative unravel, without touching it, without escalating, was oddly satisfying, a quiet vindication. I didn't need revenge in the dramatic sense. Life itself provided it. And as I sat in my apartment, finally free from obligation and drama, I realized I was happier than I had been in years. Being alone, independent, and respected felt revolutionary. The threat of being alone had never frightened me. The fear of losing dignity, respect, and sanity had. And now, with all of it restored, I could finally breathe. My story, my life, my rules. Vanessa's drama had played out, without me having to react beyond one decisive action. That single, powerful choice to leave, to set boundaries, had changed everything. And in the quiet aftermath, I found peace, real peace. The kind that comes when you stop bending for someone who never intended to meet you halfway. In the end, it wasn't a spectacle, a confrontation, or a viral post that set things right. It was clarity, consistency, and the courage to say, enough. Vanessa had chosen her path. I had chosen mine. And mine, finally, felt like freedom.